boxing.
I want to make one prediction.
Welcome back to Boxing on the Edge. I hope everyone's doing good. Boxing continues its wonderful roll right now. We got another really good fight this coming Saturday. Dymitry Bivol will be defending his WBA light heavyweight title. He'll be fighting Canelo Alvarez in Las Vegas. This fight is about legacy. Let's discuss. Welcome along if you're new here. What we do on this channel, we break the fighters down, talk about their fighting style, their trainers briefly. I'll break the fight down at the end of the video with the prediction, and I've also got a section called the Hurt Zone where I'll highlight what punches have hurt fighters in the past and whether that's relevant in this fight, and what kind of punches can these guys throw at each other that will do either the most damage or will be important in the fight. So stay tuned for that. I'll leave timestamps in the description box and right along here right now so you can skip to certain parts of the video. So this fight is about legacy. We know Canelo is searching for greatness. He's on the path for greatness. We should really appreciate him while he's here because he is an absolutely amazing fighter, and he's, you know, trying to do some great things in this sport, like take on a legitimate light heavyweight champion that hasn't lost and hasn't really come close to losing if you look at his record, in Dymitry Bivol. Bivol's obviously gunning for his own legacy, so it really makes for a fantastic fight. And you know, it's the first time I've actually thought, wow, Canelo might not actually win this fight. So stay tuned for the fight breakdown and prediction at the end of this video on that. Let's get started. Let's start with Canelo Alvarez. So Canelo, yeah, let me correct myself when I said Bivol is the first fighter that might have a legitimate chance of beating Canelo. Obviously Triple G was in that category when that fight got announced. So prior to that though, I know Canelo's the favorite in this fight. I think Bivol, to me, stands the most chance of beating him out of anybody he's fought since Golovkin. Now, Canelo's fighting style is rather amazing, to be honest. He has evolved over the years, and he's gotten a lot smarter. He was already smart, but has this like very reserved, educated, complicated pressure fighting style. I say complicated, but just because he's so calculated with his punches, you know, it puts a lot of pressure on his fighters. He always puts on his opponents. He puts them on the back foot usually, and it's just systematically a matter of time before he gets to them. And he's absolutely exceptional at counter punching on the front foot. He's exceptional at going to the body. He does not waste many punches, if any. You know, and he comes in absolutely tremendous shape. He's completely dedicated to the sport. And you know, you have to really cherish fighters like that, because being as wealthy and as successful as he is, and as, you know, decorated as he is, he still wants to be great. And that is a special talent in itself. You know, people talk about talent in boxing when it comes to like hand speed and power and stuff like that, but determination and will, and you know, just wanting to be great and wanting to better yourself every time, that's a talent in itself, and that's why he's up here. And he's an amazing asset to the sport, and I love watching him fight because his style is great, really. You know, at some point he's going to be entertaining, but he's also very, very calculated with his pressure. And you know, he looks like he can probably go 24 rounds the way he fights. So he is trained by Eddie Reynoso, as we know, who's done an amazing job with him. You know, a lot of people say the best trainers are the ones that take kids from youth and, you know, turn them into a champion, and I don't disagree with that. But you do wonder if Canelo would have been, you know, where he is now without Reynoso. When you get a special talent like that, I'd probably suggest Canelo would probably be right up there. He might have a different style, he might focus on different things, but listen, Reynoso's done a remarkable job with him. Not saying that at all, but I think when you have somebody like Canelo, they find their way to the top regardless of who's training them. But Reynoso's definitely on a little bit of a slide at the moment, you could say. Oscar Valdez just lost this past weekend. It looked, like they didn't really have much of a game plan in fight either. A lot of that could be down to the fighter, obviously, but I wasn't able to really hear in between, the discussion what Reynoso was saying to him. But that was a loss. Martinez lost recently to, decisively, two decisive losses. So, if Canelo were to lose this, that would be a bad year for Reynoso. And that whole beef with Ryan Garcia too, who knows who to believe or what, but it's not been the best year for Reynoso, shall we say. But he might turn that around with a great win this coming Saturday, so we shall see. Anyway, moving on to Canelo's opponent, who is the actual champion. Canelo is the challenger here, so Dymitry Bivol is the WBA light heavyweight champion. Now, he is a really, really good fighter. This is making me really curious about this fight. Bivol has not, even come close to losing. He's only won unanimously, or he's either knocked people out, or TKO, or a KO. Now, he hasn't been knocking people out recently. He's been going 12 rounds, but he's been winning easily. He's a very disciplined fighter. He has predominantly an Eastern European style, in and out, 1-2. He's got excellent range control. And he's got somewhat of an American twang to it, where he kind of gets a little bit loose here and there and drops his left hand, and still bounces, but predominantly he's got an Eastern European style, and he uses it effectively, and he's very disciplined with it. Okay, he's very disciplined about getting in and out. Like I said, his range control is great. He doesn't tend to stay on the ropes that much. He really is he's a really good fighter. When you're being disciplined in a boxing ring is one of the most important things to do, I think. Because when you have those lapses, for example, where fighters suddenly just stop moving and then find themselves on the ropes and then they're disadvantaged, stuff like that, that happens all the time in boxing, but not with Bivol. No, he sticks to his game plan, and he doesn't get drawn into fights he doesn't need to do, or patches or exchanges too much, not from what I've seen. So that's going to serve him well, and we'll get more onto that in the fight breakdown later. Now, he is trained, I know, Joel Diaz, and Diaz will be his trainer for this fight. And I like Joel Diaz. His claim to fame really, or his most famous wins, came with Timothy Bradley, but he's been in the game a long time, out there in California on the West Coast. He's a no-nonsense type of trainer, and I think that fits perfectly with Bivol. He likes the discipline side, and I've always liked Joel Diaz's corner talk as well. That's really important. He doesn't feed his fighter a lot of nonsense. He just tells him, look, you're losing, at least from what I remember. So that's a good fit. I think he's in good hands, and I think they make a good team together, So anyway, let's move on to the hurt zone. So this section is basically highlighting when fighters got hurt, how they got hurt, does it play a part in this coming fight this Saturday, and what punches can they throw against their opponents that might get them hurt or be a main factor in winning the fight. So we know Canelo really hasn't been hurt that much, at least not from what I can see. And look, as a fighter, you're told to conceal your pain when you're fighting, and maybe there's been times where Canelo has been more hurt than we know, and he just hasn't shown it, and he's that good of a fighter. I wouldn't be surprised. But against Cotto's brother, he was badly hurt.
And he is wobbled by a left hook, and he's in trouble, and Cotto's dumping him. And maybe the matchmaking was a mistake, but no, he gets out of trouble, still wobbling.
And he was doing the chicken dance, It was like a short shot on the inside. I think it was a left hook Curto's brother caught him with. He didn't do that much wrong either. He brought his hand up, but his hand was like on the side of his head as opposed to right here. It's boxing. You can do just about everything right and still get clipped and hurt. So, you know, look, he recovered and, you know, ended up winning that fight, obviously. So, you know, will that punch be an effect? I don't see Bivol landing short left hooks on the inside. So, but, you know, we know Canelo can be hurt. He's human after all. So, Bivol, on the other hand, he hasn't been hurt that often either. And he got hurt against Joe Smith. He was quite badly dazed. I don't know if it was badly hurt. You know, he was certainly hurt, and he looked hurt.
As I mentioned, Bivol.
Good shot there. That might have hurt Bivol right there. That was an overhand right. Right at the belt. Wow.
Because he got caught with a massive overhand right. He got caught with 2 overhand rights in that fight. 1 a little earlier on in the fight, and 2, I think it was at the end of round 10, right at the bell. So he was lucky with that respect. But Joe Smith's a fully fledged light heavyweight that punches really hard. So where I'm going with this is, you know, obviously Canelo has an exceptional overhand right, and, you know, Bivol getting caught with those 2 overhand rights. Perhaps he's been caught in the past. I'll have a little look on some tape and put it up right now if I can find it. But that's definitely something there. Now, with Bivol's height and reach and length compared to Canelo, it's going to be a little bit harder for Canelo to land that. You know, Joe Smith's a bigger guy, longer guy. So I'm sure they will see that, Canelo's team. I'm sure they're looking at tape and thinking, okay, if we can get in range. And, you know, one of the shots that Bivol did, he actually got caught in the middle of a counter. So if he's coming forward and Canelo can loop his overhand right, that's very conceivable he could land a shot on there. So I think that's definitely something to look out for. And in terms of Bivol hurting Canelo, I mean, he's taking some massive shots off Triple G. I don't really see Bivol hurting Canelo, but if he's going to, it's probably more likely going to be his 1-2. It's probably his best weapon, and, you know, we'll see how much damage, if he can even land it clean, that will do. But that's all I've got on this. Sometimes fighters don't get hurt, and these 2 dudes don't get hurt that often. So that is the hurt zone. Moving on to the fight breakdown and prediction. Now, this is a very intriguing fight, okay? Very complicated. When I first did my early thoughts video a few months back, when this fight got announced, I was like, this is a complicated fight, man. You know, like, fair play to Canelo for taking this, because this is a serious dude he's fighting. And how is the fight going to play out? The closest thing to match up to this fight would probably be, as if you can get some kind of blueprint, would be the Kovalev fight. I'm not saying it'll be the same fight or they're same fighters, but Canelo came out to Kovalev. You know, he was pressuring him from early, and that was surprising. But then again, I think they really knew Kovalev was there for the taking. He just come off quite a somewhat hard fight against Yard, you know, and he went through these training camps. Kovalev likes some Russian vodka, so I'm sure after the fight he treated himself with a bottle of Grey Goose and probably guzzled it down. But he had 2 months to turn around and take the fight with Canelo. Of course he's going to take the fight. He's getting offered millions of dollars, but I think they knew that, and I think Canelo's team pressured him, looking to take him into deep waters. But, you know, Bivol is not Kovalev. He's way fresher. He's in his prime. He's strong. He's a big light heavyweight. I know Kovalev is, but he was not the same guy that we're used to seeing. And Kovalev was like pouring at the jab. You wonder if Bivol can afford to do that, because what Canelo does and what he's going to do, I think, is he's going to systematically try to walk Bivol down with his high guard and look for those pull counters. So Canelo waits for you to make a mistake, get into your zone, get into his zone, pull back, counter with a hard shot, maybe 2 shots, and then just that's how he fights. Now, fighting Bivol like that, Bivol doesn't really, like, he's in and out of that pocket, so he's not going to be there to hit because he's very disciplined about getting out, and his range control's excellent. He's a bigger guy. One thing Kovalev was doing, he was fighting short, okay, and that was instructions from Buddy McGirt.
When he gets low, you get low with him. But when you stand up tall, he can get under you. When you're down here, he can't get to you. But just trying to go down here early. You see that? When you're here, you can't get nothing. Okay? And just keep that jab going. All right? He can't get past the jab.
And that's sometimes when you do that, if you negate your height as a taller fighter, you take away the body a little bit, you know. And McGirt said that in between rounds as well. I think Bivol, personally, I think he should fight tall. Fighting tall just means, like, you know, don't give up your height. Stand up a little tall, which Bivol tends to do anyway. And you know, he's not going to be there for the body shots because he moves his body in and out anyway. And I think he's going to be looking to do that. It could be somewhat of a stalemate fight, you know. It'll be a little chess matchy at times, and it'll be really interesting to see who's the stronger guy. I know Canelo's been in the weight room and hitting those weights to bulk up a little bit, so you know, he can either take those punches or be on the inside and try to be more physical, because Bivol's not really an inside fighter. He likes to keep things on the outside, stick and move. He's got that, you know, Eastern European bing bing, 1-2, in and out, move. You know, he's very smart. Bivol actually said that he wasn't the strongest or the quickest, which was interesting. So he's already, by his own admission, saying he isn't that strong. Whether that's mind games, I don't know. But he's not like the strongest light heavyweight you've ever seen. But he is highly intelligent and very disciplined, and he sticks to his boxing, and that is a skill in itself. And you know, is he going to be darting in and out trying to hit those 1-2s? I think so. He's only ever fought like that. I think Canelo's going to have a hard time getting in and using those pull counters that he likes to do. I think Bivol is going to keep Canelo on the outside. I don't think he's going to get pushed back as much as Kovalev did, because Kovalev doesn't move as well as Bivol, and Bivol's got that in his back pocket. And you know, there might be times where the fight might ebb and flow. You know, I can't see Canelo just getting his own way and pushing Bivol back around the ring. Maybe, I don't know, maybe as the fight goes on, but you know, Canelo's so good at evading punches. He's very relaxed. I think it's going to be quite a relaxed. It's a professional prize fight. It's obviously not relaxed, but the way they fight, especially Canelo, it makes it look relaxed because he's so good. But he's going to look to counter Bivol, and he's going to maybe look to take him on the inside. But Bivol, like I said, he won't be there. He's going to move because he's very disciplined. He doesn't stay on the ropes, you know. And Bivol can counter himself. Now he can throw sharp counters. It's not necessarily his forte, but he can do it. I've seen him do it. Another thing Bivol does well that I think he should do is his 1-2-1. Okay, so that's a 1-2 and then a bam 1. And what that does, especially against the counter puncher, right? If you do a 1-2, they wait for you to get in your zone, and then as they load up, like Canelo does, boom, you just meet him with a jab. It's a sneaky punch, but Bivol's done it in the past, and it can be very effective because it catches you by surprise, but you can't use it all the time. But I think Bivol could utilize that, and I think Bivol's gonna win, to be honest with you. Moving on to the fight prediction, I think Bivol's going to win this fight. I really do. I don't think Canelo is going to have his own way. I think Bivol's going to be too big and too long and too disciplined, and there's going to be a lot of close rounds, and it's probably going to end up in a draw because they're not going to give Bivol a split decision in Vegas. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. But I think this is an extremely tough fight for Canelo. I don't think he's going to get his own way at all. I don't think Bivol's going to be there for the pull counters like I mentioned. I think Bivol's going to have the height, and he's going to be sharper with his punches, and he's not going to be there to get countered. And I think he's going to win quite a few rounds. I really do. And it will be interesting to see how the judges do this, because you know, all eyes will be on the judges, because I think for the most part, I think we can agree this fight is probably going to go 12 rounds, and it could be you know, some clean shots that get landed at the side around. It will be really, really interesting to see what criteria they use, each judge. But I'm going to go with Bivol. I think Dymitry Bivol upsets Canelo, and they'll give it a draw, like I mentioned. But may the best man win. May both guys come out the ring healthy. And that's all we can ask for, to ask for a good fight and, you know, be entertained with boxing fans. That's what we're here for. So I hope everybody enjoys the fight. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon. Boxing on the Edge. Take care of yourself.
Boxing.
On the edge.